afternoon and good morning for those who are joining us from Canada and US. Especially, we have two speakers from North America today. Welcome to our virtual panel webinar, 5G Endless Benefit of 5G to Operator, in which we will have very interesting speakers today. We'll have Alex Sinclair, CTO, GSMA, Dr. Ibrahim Gedaon, CTO, TELUS, Dr. Mohammed Madkour, VP Global Wireless Network and Solution of Huawei, James Kirby, Senior VP and Head of MEA Region for CSG, Mohammed Marzouki, VP Technology of Synergy Etisalat Group. We'll discuss the topics in depth. At the end of the panel, the audience will have the chance to ask questions to the panelists in the Q&A section. We'll launch also a poll, so we invite everyone to participate in this kind of voting. And now, before we start with our first question for today, I will give the floor to our panelists to introduce themselves. Alex, we start by you, maybe.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Alex Sinclair. I've been in the business for about 35 years, have a software development background, been at the GSMA since 2003, and absolutely delighted to be
here. Then Ibrahim.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Ibrahim Gideon. I'm the CTO of TELUS. Longtime friend of Alex through many roles. I'm responsible for technology strategy and networks and everything that comes with it these days, security, privacy, and insights. So pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay. Mohammed Marzouki, please go ahead. Also, introduce yourself.
Yes, this is Mohammed Marzouki from Etisalat Group. We at Etisalat Group, we operate in 16 countries. So I'm in charge of testing and rolling out the new technologies in those operators.
Okay, Dr. Mohammed Madkour also, please.
Hello, everyone. This is Mohammed. I work for Huawei for about 13 years now, mainly in US, Latin America, but have been working in China for about 6 years. Currently, I'm not in China. I'm doing that from home in Dallas. So it's a pleasure to meet you all. And my responsibility is all about 5G, of course, and especially universal connectivity and prosperity for everyone. So pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Mohammed. James, last and the best, maybe. You can go ahead.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks everyone for joining today. I'm James Kirby, Senior Vice President for CSG's Europe, Middle East, Africa business, which is one of the fastest, I think, growing regions, especially with 5G, which is obviously what we're here to talk about today. And it's really great to see the enthusiasm behind rolling out 5G across the region. So looking forward to the discussion.
Okay, thank you, James. Now let's start with my first questions, and you can choose who will answer by it. Maybe I'll address the first question maybe to Alex. The competition between OTT and mobile operators has been fierce lately. How can 5G support operator positioning against OTT domination?
Well, I think the first thing to realize is, 5G isn't just another consumer broadband. It's not about competing with Disney and Netflix to take the last dollar from a consumer wallet. It's much more about positively disrupting every other sector. We want to make them all truly wireless and truly mobile for the first time. Now, that's by definition, that's a new business. That's not owned by WhatsApp or Netflix or Facebook. Nobody owns it as of yet. So clearly there's an opportunity for operators to lead. And given the pace of rollout of 5G, we've got about 157 live commercial networks, I think, in 62 countries. That's despite all the COVID restrictions. That opportunity starts here and it starts now.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Now we'll take this answer from an operator, Mohammed Marzouki, if you can also answer on this question.
Yes, Tony. I disagree with the statement about if there is a war between the OTT and the telecom operators. And to be honest, I changed my mind recently. I think both entities are trying to connect the world, so from different angles. So why don't we cooperate together? Let's take two live examples. Let's take Jio, for example, in India. Jio operate in a country with $2 as an ARPU per month. Yet Geo managed to collect $20 billion as investment from international investors. One of them was Facebook.
Your
Facebook is an
connection is weak,
OTT.
Hamad. Hamad, check your connectivity, please.
Can't you hear me?
Your connection is not good.
How is that now? Still bad?
It's better now. Keep
Okay,
going to see.
Let me know if the voice is not clear. So I was talking about Geo. Geo managed to collect $20 billion from international investors, and one of them was the Facebook. And Facebook at the end is kind of OTT provider. Imagine if Mr. Mukesh Ambani, the owner of Geo, was against the OTT in the beginning and he blocked the OTT. He couldn't manage to get this amount of money. So we as an operator, we need to think about as an OTT as a new opportunity to increase our revenue. The second example, let's take about the WeChat in China. WeChat today is an OTT. It's nothing but an OTT. However, they are serving 1.1 billion users in China. They managed to create jobs for 24 million guys in China. They are not the WeChat staff. This is a new jobs created because of WeChat platform. WeChat today contribute to $62 billion in the Chinese GDP. So they are adding value to the economy, and whomever can add value to the economy, I think at the end, this will add benefits to the telecom sector. So
what about our region there?
Our region is moving toward this.
What about our region? How we are doing in our region?
We are pushing and moving toward the same direction. I think we operate in 16 countries. We kind of have the needed sufficient infrastructure to support the OTT. We can either cooperate with them, we can establish our own OTT somehow, but I think the old school of blocking them and consider them as a threat, I think this is gonna to vanish soon. I think maybe this is the first time you hear this opinion from a telecom operator.
It's not disappointment, it's a point of view. Maybe I agree, maybe I don't agree. Okay. Yeah. In fact, I don't agree too much with you, because at least in many areas in the world, still many regions, still the OTT just using the telecom infrastructure just for free. Okay. This is why you have taxation now, imposed taxation in Canada and Australia, in many countries on them. Okay, Italy and France for Facebook. So this is why I don't agree with you too much. You know,
I think we need to have
let's
a
see
full
from
session
other
for
operator
this
point
point
of view,
only.
Brahim, please.
Yeah.
We have another webinar for this. We need another webinar. Anyway, Brahim, from your point of view as operator as well.
I think it's tough to agree or disagree. Like I agree with my colleagues, like blanket statements like this, because I mean, we were fighting with the telcos, the operators were fighting with each other for the longest time. Now there's a revenue stream that we never really looked at, that the hyperscalers took. Like, I don't think any of us paid attention to some of the GSMA APIs or to RCS and they've occupied a vacuum, right? So I agree with Muhammad that definitely the key is partnership. Like, there's some stuff that we're not good at. Like, you'll never go to the butcher to get vegetables. Why the hell would you come to the operators to get hyperscaler type of activities? But I believe, and this is where I agree with Alex. So we've both been involved since 2014 when the word 5G was coined. It is definitely outside in driven, right? Like, we tried very hard, the industry tried very hard to take a consumer centric view. And this is speaking as a technologist. And I think for now that the nuclear race is becoming over between us and our competitors, at least in Canada, how big is my 5G? And I applaud the fastest 5G in the world. From Muhammad, it's nice to have that. But we've got the open signal fastest network in the world for 10 years. My view is we need to work on 5G becoming useful for clients. And I think this is the time. So it's not proven. I think all the hyperscalers are coming up with some really cool ideas. And I believe we're partnering with all of them. The question is, which one do you partner with the most? It's similar to the vendors in the old days, right? Like you have a bit of Ericsson, you have a bit of Nokia, you have a bit of Huawei, Samsung, whatever it is. And I think that what's coming now is it'll be really great for us as operators to be a bit more empathetic, because if you look at the end customers, everybody's talking about digital, talking about cloud, talking about 5G. They have to come together, because if they each evolve in their own vein, I think the industry, for the lack of a better word, is in deep shit, because they'll all evolve, they won't interwork, and then there'll be the next version of the hyperscaler. So don't forget that in another couple of years, Google will be an old company. So will Amazon. So will Microsoft is all already. So we have to think of what is coming up. So from a TELUS point of view, I think we're leveraging what we know about 4G and 5G to start getting these benefits, because some of them don't have business cases. Like, I mean, if you noticed, and I apologize for prolonging my talk, but I'm so happy I don't hear anybody talking about somebody in China performing surgery on somebody in Canada using 5G. Or a stupid.
I will.
Or like a stupid musical band.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Like, or having a concert where there's a violinist in Barcelona and a pianist in Montreal and a cello in Singapore, and then everybody's excited. So I mean, these are really cool. But I think the pandemic proved we need to actually get our heads together and do something purposeful.
Okay, thank you, Brahim. James, you at CSG monetizing the 5G and other generations as a telecom operator. So what is your point of view on that?
Yeah, no, I kind of, I was smiling there when Ibrahim was talking, and I think there is a little bit of reinvention that is needed, for sure. If it is just about the fast pipe and pipes just get faster, then probably there's going to be money left on the table, and the operators aren't going to be taking that money. Somebody else is going to be taking it from them. So I think there are some lessons to be learned from, let's say, previous generations of G, 3G, 4G. But also I think 5G is definitely changing the game, and to the point of, Microsoft being old, and Apple, look at Apple, right? They're very old, but they've reinvented themselves as they've gone along, and I think that's what's needed here in the telecom industry, where there's some reinvention needed. And with 5G, it's not just about the speed, it is the latency, and there's all these crazy, wacky kind of playing symphonies from all around the world. But underneath that, there are some real interesting use cases that are probably not always apparent, and I think there's maybe not apparent from a consumer perspective. I think in the business environment, we need to take that into account, whether that's financial services and financial trading, for example, needing that really ultra low latency, or things like autonomous cars, where milliseconds is a matter of life and death. So it's how are operators going to embrace the different business models that are going to be behind this, where in some ways enterprises, I think, are going to be more of the key to 5G actually than consumers, because there's only so fast you can type a WhatsApp message on your phone, or how much screen resolution you can actually watch with the human eye. It'll be the enterprise side of this that is going to be really important. And actually the enterprise sector is probably one of the an underserved area from a digitalization perspective. If I want to have my home broadband installed, I can do that online, and it's done within a couple of days. If I'm a business and I want to have an MPLS circuit put into a remote office, gee whiz, that takes months and months to do. So I think as we look to reinvent ourselves, the B2B and the enterprise side of operators need to really look at this. And those that do look at that will be the ones that really succeed beyond just providing a data pipe. Oh, you're on mute, Tony.
Flash.
No problem.
Yeah, Dr. Muhammad Madkour, please go ahead. And this also from vendor's point of view.
Yeah, Yeah, but completely agree with all what have been said so far. There is no battle between OTTs and carriers so far, and I think what I wanted to say is we have to shift the conversation actually from those kind of terms like battle, killer application, 5G race, all of those old school terms. I think we need to just move on and focus on 5G as a wonderful, strong tool that will give operators actually the tool to control their pipe, how to control my pipe, how to provide a wide range of services in different market segments, and that's what matters at the moment. And I wanted to say it's kind of a green field opportunity now with no incumbents, and the carriers I think are very well positioned to take to continuing in leading on providing the services, no matter from pipe perspective, cloud services, or even up to ICT service. But if you allow me to, because Tony, you mentioned about Middle East, and to be honest, we're so excited about what's happening in Middle East regarding 5G applications in all consumer, home, and also private or leased line. So if you allow me to share one slide to show you some numbers on the Middle East, I think you're blocking me from sharing, but is it possible to share one slide, Tony?
Ahmad, he's doing that on purpose.
I know. That's what it's looked like. I wanted to have success in South Korea, China, and also in Middle East. But let me focus on Middle East, because what we've been witnessing actually is booming in the 2C space, and we're expecting by the end of this year to have about 8 million subscribers for 5G in the Middle East. And by the theory of Rogers of diffusion of innovation, this is going to be 20%. Once we reach 20%, next year is supposed to be really huge in the Middle East when it comes to consumer space. Look at this number. We have 720,000 broadband subscription in Middle East. Look at the lease line. Right now, we exceeded 9,000 5G to B lines in the Middle East. So just in the Middle East GCC countries, we see enormous space and leveraging of 5G. And guess what? OTT doesn't have anything to do about that. We don't really care about that. We really care about collaborative competition. The really big picture is the what's happening in South Korea and how they have premium content and innovation, AR content and innovations. Enhancing the revenue and base in China when it comes to coal mining, oil and gas industry, airports. Imagine by deploying 5G to B application inside the mine, we cut the number of resources underground by 50%. Look at the enormous social responsibility and benefiting the society, removing the risk of having those people in very dangerous space. So 5G not only providing a technical benefit, but also commercial benefit, society benefit, and also social responsibility benefit. So the space is enormous, and I think we are yet to see huge applications that really was going to be remarkable.
Thank you, Muhammad. But you can share any slide. I didn't block you, and I check it.
Okay, maybe next time. But okay. That's it for that question.
Okay. No, but because you can share anything. Okay, thank you. Let's go to second question. Operators have been heavily invested in 5G. What is the next step to secure return on this investment? We'll start with you, Dr. Brahim.
I'd like to just add, following the same vein that my colleagues have indicated, I think for proper 5G investment, you need to look at the increased bandwidth is nice, but a lot of our peers have 1 gig on their devices, right, with 4G, right? So I think the key for us is, are we going to deploy edge to such a level to get 5 milliseconds delay, right? Like eventually will cars talk to each other? These are all real things that are happening. So before we talk about monetization, I think our rollout, for the first time in our life, the challenge is more than just RAN, right? So the traditional RAN coverage, it's the fiber infrastructure. I mean, it was very important with 4G, but it's ever so important, right? Like one of the things we're looking at, and we'll talk about monetization in a second, but one of the things we're looking at is in a typical city, like if you know Edmonton, it's probably 10,000 square kilometers. This is Canada, so it's only 1.5 million people for 10,000 square kilometers. Coming from Lebanon, which had 6 million people in 10,000 square kilometers, Edmonton is different. But if you think of a city like Edmonton, the metro, from a TELUS point of view, is 5 optical networks that connect together, right? So how many MECs do we envision? The old days of thinking would be at most 5. But the new way of thinking is, well, every stadium will have something, right? They have a computer and storage. Every large compound of a company will have it. So you think of that, you're going to have 100 edges/cores. And I think that is our challenge when that becomes prevalent, right? Are we going to pick streets downtown? So instead of building heavy rail infrastructure for our subway system or our transportation, well, eventually there'll be a lane instead of dedicated to just bikes, to cars that talk to each other because the 5G network is so fantastic. And that's the kind of investment we need to look at. From monetization, we have some really use cases because it's a big country and we have a lot of harsh weather. But our farmers and where we have a lot of oil in the north, they can, for example, sit in a truck and get a range of 30 kilometers with a drone while it goes around, downloads data and gets processed. So how do we build a network in a truck? And you can do it today at around $2-3 million. How can we make it $500,000? How can we take it down to 100,000? And I think that's our industry challenge because, Tony, we have to displace real costs for these enterprises. Like everybody will try it as an experiment. Say, oh my God, I got that drone that flies on 5G. But if it's not part of their transformation and replacing what they do today, it's good for a press release.
or good for extra investment. For extra investment as well. Okay. Anyway, Canada is different because with the space there, it's very hard. The investment is huge. Let's go now to Etisalat, but then we'll go back to Alex from GSMA, the Global of Telecom Operator Council, in fact. Muhammad, from Etisalat point of view, the investment on 5G, how it's going?
Well, I keep hearing from the shareholders that we invest a lot in 5G. My answer to them, did we invest much in 5G till now? I think the answer, my colleague, Dr. Muhammad, will like it as he's the president of the telecom vendors. I think what was invested till now is only the tip of the iceberg. That's it for the 5G. If we are really serious in capturing all the business cases in the 5G, we need to spend a lot. And I think what we will spend is the more investment will come only within 2 to 3 years. And you'll be surprised the amount of investment. Recently, there was a report published by Ericsson about that 5G users are not happy about the 5G, what it can deliver or its apps. This takes us to the question of is 5G evolution or evolution? Now, for me, I think it was an evolution with all this speed and zero almost latency. But what do I know? I'm an old guy who witnesses the 2G and the 3G era. So for me, it's evolution. But for the young people, it is a normal evolution. So I think
Ahmad, I should comment on this report at the end.
No, you are young. You are young.
Yeah, I would like to comment. I cannot hold myself much, on this report, especially this report.
So I think a lot of investment is coming. It's not only about how much we'll spend on the spectrum or the license or how many base stations we'll have. There are a lot of investments coming on. If you talk about the data centers I just mentioned, We will have a lot of data centers all over the countries. We're talking about artificial intelligence. You're talking about the software license. You'll talk about the slicing, the big data, the quality of service. We'll talk about M2M, cloud networking, the blockchain, all those kinds of services. It will generate a lot of money. But we as an operator, we need to be ready and we need to invest in the beginning to be able to monetize whatever investment will be done in this field. So as I said, it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning, more to come. Mike is back to you.
Again, I forget to unmute. Alex, please, if you can comment on the investment volume done on the 5G and how the possible return on investment.
I think several guys have commented on the investment already, and we can all bandy figures around. We know, broadly speaking, what people are spending. By the way, the envelope tends to be quite similar year to year. It's just a question of what you're spending it on. And as the guys have pointed out, there's a lot more than just the RAN these days. But if you look at the revenue side, we've just published some data on the forecasting that we're doing. Many of the areas have already been mentioned, but 83% of our CEOs, when they were surveyed, they think the bulk of the return is going to come in either enterprise or government applications. And in our own predictions, we're saying that things like public services, healthcare, education could be up to 40% of that. The big one that nobody's really mentioned much yet is manufacturing. We think that is going to be huge. And we're seeing a lot of demand. And for guys like us, we've been in the business a long time. Telcos used to have a very strong habit of pushing and then trying to see if anybody wanted it. Now we're being pulled. The whole private networking space at the moment is really hotting up. So I think manufacturing is a really important one. I was talking to Bosch a couple of weeks ago, they're doing some really cool stuff. And for them, this is critical. They really see the benefits of having completely wireless production lines, in terms of maximizing the uptime and in terms of minimizing retooling configuration. That's worth a fortune to those guys. But there are so many other areas. Mohammed mentioned mining, construction mining. That's another big one. There's utilities, energy companies. There's a lot of cool stuff being done with smart grids at the moment. Then you've got retail, all the other stuff. And I'll come back to consumer. I said at the beginning, it's not about consumer, and it largely isn't, by the way. But there's still quite a lot of space there as well. There's a lot going on. It's patchy in different countries. It's not every country, but fixed wireless access is attractive to some. And there's a lot of space in cloud edge gaming, for example. And if you go to Korea and places like that, some people are doing it themselves. Some people are doing it in partnership with the likes of NVIDIA. So there is a lot of opportunity. The real problem is getting to scale on all of these things, right? Because as Ibrahim said, I could show you 1 million POCs and case studies, but until you can find something where we sort of start to get a bit of scale, then you don't really know what's going to take off.
Thank you, Alex. James, can you comment also on this?
Yeah, I mean, one area that maybe we haven't talked about too much, and I was actually on another panel discussion where an operator there had an interesting view on this, where yes, there's a lot of money being spent on 5G in terms of, I guess, the network and the RAN side of rollout. How do you maximize the return on that investment? Well, one of the ways you need to do that is to get people using it. I think as Alex just said, the demand is coming to operators now, especially in the enterprise, and manufacturing is a really good example of that. I sometimes think there's maybe a little bit of a gap where operators are still too much in well, let's put up the masts and see who comes. Now we've got these, very different use cases, in some ways different customer bases, because it is, heavily skewed towards enterprise and government. Well, how are we going to get those on board? Because it's not just provide them a SIM card, which is what operators have typically been used to doing, just shipping out SIM cards and they're on board. As we look at the more complex business models, there's an integration activity that's needed. And for operators that do go beyond just sticking up the masts, and they actually have a capability, call it system integration or communication integration, where they actually enable the enterprises to come on board with these new business models. I think that can actually speed up the return on the investment, because we need to do a little bit more than literally just putting up the masts. We need to actually enable our business community to come on board to our ecosystem. Now, we could leave that to system integration companies, and there's lots of them out there that do a very good job. But to the point of our operators losing money to OTT players, wouldn't surprise me if there's a few integration companies out there that could actually be stealing some of the money as well, because they'll be the ones that will be enabling businesses, enterprises, governments to take advantage of that bandwidth. So it's not for every operator, but I think there's something to be looked at there. And then it's a question of how do you charge for that, let's say, additional layer of service that you put on top beyond just the bandwidth, which could be a managed communication service, managed private network. So yeah, I think it's an interesting area to look at, that operators need to before they not just lose to OTT, but lose to some of the integration companies as well.
Thank you,
Thank you,
James.
Jenny.
Muhammad, do you want to comment on this from vendor perspective?
Yes, sure. So I think there are many dimensions if we wanted to shorten the return on investment, which is actually supposed to be huge, as been said, in all aspects of the network. I can split this into three dimensions. First of all, from the business perspective, from operation perspective, and also from network or from technical perspective. From business perspective, it's clear we have to access across the boards, all target, all segments. As I said earlier, it's a greenfield opportunity. From consumer perspective, leverage, for example, multi-dimensional package, innovative content. For example, in the Middle East, you have two major events coming to the Middle East, World Expo and the World Cup. So carriers and OTT develop innovative contents and premium applications to do things like smart shopping malls, the 5G broadcasting, playback, so on and so forth. So that's from the business side. Now, from operational side, we have to keep on investing on digital transformation. I mean, you cannot just get 5G as a tremendous pipe and tons of bits and bytes, and then you're not really transforming yourself when it comes to talents and organization. And also deploying, for example, power consumption efficiency. All of those things will shorten the ROI from business perspective and from operation perspective. Well, the third important one to shorten the ROI is the precise investment when it comes to technology. I think earlier this year in the Middle East, we came up with a model which is an index called an SLA, speed, latency, and availability. So basically, our insights in Middle East, China, and South Korea tells us that consumers or subscription, no matter what it is, they are very sensitive to network speed, to real-time experience, and also to availability, no matter coverage or camping for 5G. So we came up with this S times L times A, which is basically, if the carrier focus on this, it will enable it to put precise investment on where the money is, building the right experience attribute that will benefit this specific application. And when we do that, then I will have I'm shortening the ROI. So that's I think what will help the carriers to get the best bang out of every buck has been spent on 5G.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Even you answered, in fact, my third question, which I sent earlier to you. So diversification in income is a key now. It's a key nowadays for the telecom operators. You already invent some ideas, which hopefully will be taken into consideration if it's possible. So that 5G provides the need diversification and how it should be. But let's do other than Expo and World Cup. Some other beneficial idea. Alex, please.
Well, maybe I'd start again with the public services, because if you take COVID's done us a favor to a certain extent. I know that sounds like a horrible thing to say, but it's helped the digitalization in many countries around the world. And it's demonstrated, take health, right? There are so many health applications out there at the moment with operators, I couldn't name them all. But COVID's proven you don't need to travel at great cost, time, travel miles to see a doctor. You don't even need to do that when you've got a critical condition, and that's where most of the healthcare costs around the world go. You can do that safely and more conveniently from home, right? Now, I could also talk about education. COVID's demonstrated, what you can do from an education point of view as well. But if you look at, where I see the greatest potential, I definitely think manufacturing is one of them, because I'm seeing, as James said as well, such a huge demand. It's quite unusual to have people coming, telling us we need to speed up, we need to do this. And, there are issues. You've got to figure out the right partnership model, and there are lots of people trying. If you look at like Vodafone, Ford, etc. Somebody mentioned ports as well. If you look at airports and shipping ports, massive amount of activity going on all over the world around that. In fact, rather interestingly, Verizon announced a few weeks ago that they're actually providing a private network in Southampton in the UK to do that. And I know, Ibrahim, you guys are doing stuff with airports and stuff like that. I mean, there's an awful lot going on. Smart grids, you've got, I think it's Vodafone and Centrica are putting together a smart grid private network. And they're also using connected drones. It's a bit like Ibrahim mentioned, actually. They're using connected drones for power line maintenance because you can obviously inspect them pretty well as well. One of the ones I like that I've seen demonstrated pretty well is using augmented reality for field staff, particularly for field engineers. It's pretty amazing what you can do with that. But if you just look at the number of trials and things that are even commercially offered at the moment, you can see the diversity. The trick again is which or any of these will actually scale and produce a reasonable rate of return. Because as Ibrahim said, easy to do the press release, but to make a sustainable business out of it, that's the real trick. Back to you, Tony.
Okay, thank you, Alex. I don't know, there is some latency in the voice. I don't know from where. Okay, we'll go to Muhammad Marzoui, please, for that also. The diversification of income of 5G.
And to be honest, I think there will be opportunities in the 5G that might be much bigger than the appetite of the telecom operators, to be honest. Some of the operators might even decided to focus on one or two sectors only, because either they don't have the experience to focus on the remaining, they don't have the investment, the capability. But let me share with you a couple of numbers, figures that will tell you what is coming soon in the future. So the virtual world, anything virtual, mainly gaming, it is expected that within 5 years, the total value of this sector will be $390 billion. Today, we as an operator, we capture part of this amount of money. However, we are planning to expand our portion in the future. The digital wallet, it's around 4.6 trillion today opportunity. So this is a huge amount of money that telecom operator need to think about how to be part of it. Drone business, this is surprised me when I saw the number. Drone business will reach by 2030, $300 billion. And I think we, with our infrastructure, data centers and 5G and connectivity everywhere, as Dr. Mohammed said, it's about the quality of service everywhere. I think we need to be also part of this. Orbit connectivity. Till yesterday, I didn't know that 46% from the total population in the world are not connected to the internet. There are 3.6 billion human beings in the world who's not yet connected to the internet. And that's why there is a business called Orbit Business, and they are planning to hit around 370 billion annually as a business within a few years. Health sector, there was an announcement recently in the USA about a new device using AI and the 5G connectivity to test the potential of having a cancer in any human being by a small test that can be done at home. There are 66,000 deaths from cancer in USA only every year. Now, I cannot put a dollar sign against human being life, so I don't know how much is the value of this device, but I think we are talking about billions. So we need to think about outside the box. There are opportunities, and I think it will be enough for all of us. And I think it will be even more than enough. But we need to invest wisely, and we need to focus on what do we need to invest on.
Okay, thank you, Muhammad. Any comment from Ibrahim regarding diversification? Already you have mentioned some.
I think one of the things that we're all touching upon, we need to be an insight-driven operator community, right? And then I do like what Muhammad, there's two Muhammad, so it's kind of screwing around with me. But my peer from Ittisalat and my good friend from Huawei, but talking about what Muhammad
You
from
can say to
Ittisalat
the
said.
old Muhammad or young Muhammad. I am the old.
I think one of the critical pieces as we become more insights driven is, and I actually, me and Alex joke is we need to look at when 5G modem is $20. I think these are really critical disruptions that need to happen, because if you ask somebody to still be happy with 3G and 2G because of the price points, but fundamentally we all talk about insight driven insights, like what our latency is, I think we need to sit down and say, okay, well, what are we enabling to expose? And one of the things that we're trying to do at TELUS is everybody complains about our cost of systems to support businesses and people. So we need to think of them taking that over, right? Like if you're a large enterprise like a BP or a Shell or some Canadian equivalent entity, their IT department should have a frictionless ability to manage these things, right? Like, why do I know how many eSIMs they have? Like if they own their own virtual private network, for example, and I do like the industry angle Alex mentioned, we're not competing with Wi-Fi, but if you want QS, different level of security, which I think are critical things to talk about, then they should manage things like it's their own kind of private network, right? So they need to manage the devices coming. Today, I'm aware, fine, I'm aware to troubleshoot, but why am I aware? Why are my IT systems? Why do I count bits and bytes? There's a lot of stupid things that we are trying not to do. So we need to think of onboarding 5G rather than making 5G part of the stuff we do today, because then it's 4G plus, or more like 2G plus.
Dr. Ibrahim, one more thing. Can you elaborate something about TELUS Health?
Well, I mean, I enjoyed it when
I guess
old
this is one
Muhammad.
among the diversification of making calls.
Well, we TELUS a while ago decided not to buy content like a lot of our peers in North America, and we felt that if you bring the power of connectivity and insights, we should have better health outcomes. So yes, there's an ROI and financial benefits, but how do we save more lives? And if you notice, the telecom industry is at the lead edge, right? Because the competition is so fierce. In Canada, we're very socialist, so we have the Medicare, just like the UK and other countries. So there wasn't a lot of competition. So the technological improvement are not that hard. So we actually have spent over the last 15 years almost $2.5–3 billion in R&D and acquisitions. And the key is, how do we take that digital transformation for better outcomes? So 5G is a critical part, not so much for remote surgery, but to go to a doctor's office and stop with the old 30-year-old TV that runs a commercial saying, brush your teeth. How can we actually have something innovative? When you walk into a doctor's, if I'm aware of what issue with you get your own video on demand kind of thing. Like these are small things that we need to link with, but the amount of work we're doing has been really rewarding. So on a people level, Tony, it's been really rewarding for us to see the impact on digital medicine in Canada. And now the investment we have is with agriculture, right? So TELUS is the company saying, what am I good at? That's our view, very simplistically. And how can we apply it to move an industry forward? And we're doing that with agriculture. So from a diversification point of view, the revenues are still not quite equal to mainstream telecom. But I have to admit, like some of the completely off the field diversification is in the billions of dollars, so it's not bad.
Okay, very good. Thank you. James, can you quickly from your as a dependent?
James, sorry, I overtalked, man. It's my fault. I tend to answer in a long way. So the answer is diversification of docs.
No worries at all.
I ask you more question, Brahim, because I like to hear about this health plan from TELUS also. Okay, James.
Yeah, no, just quickly. I mean, I think diversification is comes in different slices. It's is it different sectors? It's not just consumer, it's government. Is it public services, enterprise, healthcare? But it's also maybe how that revenue comes into the business as well that will also get diversified. Telecoms is very much used to a price plan. You pay a fixed fee and you get a pipe, or you get a certain number of minutes. I think we're seeing a lot in the 5G space here where there are new players coming in to consume the services that are being offered, and I would probably put it to people that the way in which those services are going to be paid for is also going to be more diverse than it has been in the past. Things like revenue share, especially when we've got multi players coming into an ecosystem that all join up together. If we talk about healthcare, there's many parties in that, whether it's the insurance company, the medical device that may be implanted or whatever. How will that revenue come in will also be diversified, not just the sector it comes from. And I think to the point that you made, Ibrahim, of not wanting to fit 5G into what we have today, completely agree with that, because 5G is bringing so much diversification, and therefore it will be wrong to assume that we can fit that into what we have today, when the business model around 5G is likely to be quite different, especially if we're wanting to maximize the return on it.
Thank
Tony,
you,
back to
James.
you.
Thank you, Jim. Now I will go to the last question before we start the question, but I will miss you, Dr. Mohammed, for this, because you already talked about this diversification. So let's go for something else. 5G is the pillar of the smart connected world now. Okay, so how you describe the role, this role of leading telecom player, whatever vendors or operator or anything in this smart world, and how we can benefit from the 5G in this smart world. Dr. Muhammad.
Okay. All right. So again, just to wrap up the diversification thing, the clear example about diversification actually is the COVID and what happened actually in UAE when you have 5G serving so different causes. 18 hospitals in UAE connected to 5G in 2 days. 400,000 families benefited from education, application in 5G, and the other stuff. So COVID by itself provides a clear evidence that 5G is the technologies that serve diversification, but carriers need to leverage, and we need to onboard that, just like Ibrahim mentioned. Well, when it comes to what we do in 5G, again, well, I will share. I will share this slide that actually summarize how we think about 5G from actually 3 different levels. Well, our philosophy when we build the 5G, actually, we do not just to construct a network. When we enable new economy. So you see that from 3 different levels. First of all, the infrastructure. We encourage carriers to build a simple, efficient, and intelligent one network that serve different scenarios. And then from the platform perspective, we enable actually kind of a one-stop shop, like a 5G marketplace, if you will, specifically when it comes to 5G2B, which is a greenfield opportunity, as I mentioned earlier. Having this 5G2B marketplace, you can subscribe to any different app, just like Service Launch or anything like that. So it's like an app development engine that will serve all of enterprise users, and we use our expertise and leadership in not just in connectivity, but also in cloud computing and also in artificial intelligence to enable wide range of industry ecosystem and serve those enterprises and serve their actually digital transformation cause. So that's how we look at enabling bigger and intelligent, a connected world, specifically when it comes to enabling different industries. Back to you,
Done?
Tony.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, very quick.
Yeah, it's good this time. Alex, maybe you can to comment on this, especially if we get some more data from the SMA report regarding this education. In fact, that I like that Dr. Muhammad raised this.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not sure which question you want me to answer. The role of the company or
The role of the smart 5G in smart connected
Okay.
world. Dr.
Thanks.
Muhammad said about something about the education, the school connected using the 5G during this pandemic. That's what I wanted to know.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I mean, just very briefly, during the pandemic, we saw several really massive trends. The first one was obvious. All the traffic started coming from a different place because people weren't traveling to work. And that was very interesting for the networks. They also had fun trying to maintain the network when your staff weren't allowed to enter the premises. But we went through all that. Then we've seen a massive change in, by the way, fraud as well. Fraud shifted massively to online because you couldn't physically do fraud anymore. So that was an interesting one. But in terms of the biggest changes, I think education's been mentioned many times. That's a huge one. Health, that several of my colleagues have also commented on, and actually finance. Certainly in some countries, cash has become almost obsolete because people didn't want to touch money. They've all been transacting online. So that's another one. As I mentioned earlier, I think digital transformation has been, it's a horrid pandemic, but it's actually propelled the world forward probably 5 years in some countries, just because of sheer necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. So I think that's really important. Now, as an association, obviously I'm in a slightly different position to most of you on the call. Our job really is to try and help these things grow, and that means particularly trying to solve some of the practical problems and remove what I like to call business friction, because it doesn't stop when you produce a technical standard, right? That's the easy bit. You've got a hell of a lot of other problems you need to solve, and we do that in collaboration with our members. That's really important. The other thing I would comment on is, when I joined the association, it was pretty much just telcos and their pet suppliers. Now in 2021, we have car companies, we have banks, we have manufacturers, we have people like Salesforce and Airbus. They're all members. They're all working together with our operators on practical problems. Whether it's, for example, the connected cars that Ibrahim mentioned, cars talking to themselves, all this sort of stuff. So our job really is to convene the industry and try and get people working together in collaboration to solve some of these problems, and then hope that they get to scale, because I keep saying that word. All of these things are incredible, but I was pushing remote medicine like 10 years ago, and we were falling on deaf ears. Now, that's partially, as James said, because there are so many players. Unfortunately, healthcare tends to be not just national, it tends to be regional. And there's vast differences between the payer market, all the insurers in the US, for example, and the largely state healthcare and other markets. There's all sorts of regulation. I'm just hoping that with COVID, people have had a glimpse of what's possible. And now that we seize that and we don't slide back into the old ways just because we can.
Thank you, Alex. Muhammad, can you also comment on this, the role of 5G in smart connected world?
Yes, on top of our daily operation, providing coverage, ensuring quality of service, spending my money on the network, keeping our vendors happy. This is a daily operation and it's a habit. However, we have witnessed and captured that there are a couple of subjects that's coming with the future and with the 5G mainly, we need to give it more attention. So for example, R&D. Few operators in the world have their own R&D, and R&D will be a must in the future with the 5G and AI, all those kinds of softwares that you need to be on top of it and controlling it. R&D today generate around more than $400 billion worldwide, and the Middle East, if we take out Israel, is contributing to less than 1% from this amount of money. So it's a huge amount of money that we are missing. We, as a telecom operator, we are planning to invest heavily in this part, support more, to establish a lot of R&D to support us and our partners in the country and in the regions where we are serving. So this is one of the main topics. The second topic is the CSR. I don't see much people talking about the CSR, the corporate social responsibilities toward, for example, Paris minutes about the world climate change. With the 5G, everyone knows that the power consumption will increase by double or triple. This depends on what you are using. So what we're gonna do about it? We'll just gonna establish more sites, more data centers, more massive MIMO, consume more power, impacting the earth more and more? Or shall we react and search for another solution to reduce our power consumption and even make it green as the target for 2050 to have everything is the power source is green and renewable? So we invest heavily in this part. Actually now, most or all of our goals, initiatives, targets is linked to one or more than a CSR initiative. So this is taken care by Etisalat nowadays. Second point, data monetization. We operate in a region that's serving 500 million people. Our baseline for the customers is around 160 million. I think the data monetization of our customer and the population we are existing up in those countries, in the 16 countries, is not yet up to our expectation. We are planning to increase this. And how to do that? 5G will enable us to improve our ability to monetize customer data, but also, as I said, AI, a lot of R&D centers will help us to facilitate and make things easier for us. And this will enhance not only our service, but also will enhance the service that our customer is getting. Last point is one of the hottest topic now is the Open RAN. By time the number of vendors providing telecom service have been reduced from around 12 before 15, 20 years to now the main 4 only. So we, as an operator, we need to think about what is next. Shall we keep waiting for what's going on, especially that there is now a war between USA and China and those? So we might end up selecting only 2 vendors, or shall we search for a new telecom vendors? And we found that the 5G is an enabler for those new vendors. There are a lot of new small vendors coming now, providing either a software, an integration software, a service, the hardware service. I think it is our responsibility as a telecom operator to host those new players, protect them for some time, make sure that they are able that they are protected under our umbrella. We give them a space to grow. It's for the benefits of the operator, and I think it's even for the benefits of the classical vendor, as this will enhance the competition in the market. Thank you.
Thank you, Muhammad. We'll take comments from Brahim also on the role of 5G in smart connected world. Brahim, please.
To be honest, I have nothing to add from what Muhammad and Alex shared, right? Like, I think we're rolling it out, so it'll be like, I think the key challenge, as Alex said, is how do we integrate on board and pick what we don't want to do. And then there's a bunch of models, right? Like the biggest question telcos have as they partner. Muhammad mentioned that we've gone from 7 major vendors in the old days down to 3 major vendors, back to 4 with O-RAN, back to 80 major vendors. Everybody's got a piece. So there's a bit of a decision on how fast we transform actually 5G itself, which is a question with regards to the rollout, right? Like, do we roll out legacy 5G or do we roll out O-RAN? So I think that's a question that we're all having to decide about.
Okay, thank you, Ibrahim. Anyone would like to comment on this, Dr. Muhammad? Anyone want to comment this before we go to Q&A from the audience?
No, just a final comment is that I think, as I said, I mean, the world is so big. We just need to have our eyes on and take a moonshot in terms of define where the money is. Money everywhere right now. And just by defining where the money is, we understand what the issue is, what is the requirement from network, from operation, and then we apply it, take the use cases to the lab first, incubate it. And after doing that, it will be very easy to get it to the real world very fast. So we need to think big, start small, and scale fast. And when we do that, we will connect the whole world.
Okay, thank you. Then let's go now. We already launched the poll. Let's go to the questions. We have already some questions from the audience already. Okay, Sami Leswed, I agree with Muhammad Ibrahim. Now in our MENA region, major OTT players like Facebook, Netflix are already established, and there is, of course, opportunity to partner with OTT rather than competing. and building data. Operator like Salat can offer higher quality of service using 5G or home broadband. I guess this is not question, it's just comment, long comment. There is question from Margo Musi. So we will be seeing brand new ways of billing services. Anyone would like to comment on that?
Sorry, can you
Are we
repeat the
going?
question?
Are we going to see brand new ways of billing services?
Billing services.
Yeah, with the diversification of service, maybe the billing will be different. Is one of the questions.
Maybe I'll start there, Tony, and kind of
Yeah,
following on from what I was saying earlier. I think one of the things that we're seeing when we're working with customers, traditional telecom billing is, minutes and gigabytes and counting them. As Ibrahim said earlier, I think when we look at 5G, it's not just about the pipe. There's other aspects to it that will come in, especially as ecosystems are being built up. So that the billing is going to be somewhat different, and things like revenue share and how something gets billed, and then how that billed revenue is shared amongst the players in the ecosystem is probably the bit that will be changing the most. So when we think about billing, it's not just the billing itself. If you're the only party in that, that's fine. But more and more now, there are more and more parties involved in the billing chain. Not too dissimilar to how things like long distance voice used to be, transiting many different operators. In the 5G ecosystems, there are multiple parties to it that need to be settled, and that revenue shared appropriately. So yes, I think there will be different models that will come into it as to how 5G is built for.
No, thank you, James. Another question, billing will have to be defined rather than counting minutes and bytes and this is also on billing. Let's skip this. Question to the all panelists. Are we telcos heading toward a digital company outlook? Anyone want to take this?
I'm happy to take a start. Oh, please.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, that's one question that you just can't answer sort of yes or no, because in different parts of the world, they're all in different stages of evolution. And by the way, I'm not saying developing markets aren't digital. Some of them are more digital than the developed markets, but it very much depends on where you are. I know telcos that don't regard themselves as telcos anymore. One of the CEOs on my board said, we're a digital company, we're a content company, we just happen to do telco as well, right? You're seeing different models. You also see what people like Rakuten are doing, not just with their approach to the network and software, but what they're doing in terms of business relationships with other companies. If I look at the Russian operators, I think there's a strong argument to be made that they're banks as well, and many operators have banks. I think everyone's on a journey to digital. I think, as I said earlier, COVID will accelerate it because the population has to go with you. But it's different depending on where you are in your local circumstances and local competition. And it's obviously easier for the big guys. And if I'm a tier 2, tier 3 operator, I'm going to struggle with having the expertise to get there, I think.
Thank you. I don't know, there is comment from also that they agree with Brahim and what CSGs they are doing, but I don't know on which they agree with Brahim. It's not clear. Maybe you can read it, Brahim. Exactly, I don't know. It's complimentary, I guess, to Brahim and CSG, to James.
Well, no, I think I just want to add on, if I may.
That's fine. It would be nice. Don't worry.
No. I mean, I think I've been answering some of them as we're talking.
Okay.
So a lot of the comments, I've had a couple, but I just want to add to what Alex said. Digital is so wide. So there's a digital channel in the old days, right, which was your website and your app. But you got to go beyond. There's also the internal IT digital transformation that we're all undergoing at some sort of level, right? But then we have brands that are digital only, for the lack of a better word. But I feel like a broken record, right? You can't talk digital without insights, right? Like, or the IT transformation. Like, to me, it's not new, it's an evolution. And depending, do we go slowly? Or do we say, okay, what does that really mean? And it goes back to everything from O-RAN to compute to cloud. So really good dig on it. And then we all have plumbing. The question is that the only revenue? Because if that's the only revenue, we become utility companies. And we refuse. We have health, we have agriculture. And I think there's a B to B to C emergence that we have a role to play. We're not going to own it. Like banks failed owning it, telcos failed owning it. I think the question is we need to play within the context of other folks. And that's the key thing. Like, how do we get our 1 cent on the dollar versus the old business case that telcos used to have? And colleagues and Tony and everybody, I apologize. I'm 7 minutes late for my next call. I only had an hour. I apologize on my schedule.
It's fine. We're almost done, Brahim.
Thank you for the
Okay.
opportunity.
No, thank
Stay
you very
safe.
much for you. Really, thank you for you. And you come very early, wake up for us.
It's good.
Appreciate it.
Had coffee.
Thank you. Thank you, Brahim. Okay,
Yeah,
there is a how to assess the 5G experience. I think it's not only speed.
Yeah, I
So-
think, I think I already talked, this is very fundamental, Tony. And as I said, identifying a holistic meaning for experience, it's a fundamental for precise investment and shorten ROI and attacking so different services. And what I mentioned earlier about our Middle East region, when they put together this index, which is called SLA, speed, latency, and availability. I think we need the help of the standard bodies and also industry organization on finding out the benchmark, how to score that index, how to put that into real world, and then how to map it to different services with different score, with different availability. And I think that will be the secret of the success of the carrier in the whole world. But just I wanted to add one line about the digital being digital. I think there is no option for the operator just to be digital, and there are more capability to be added for integration capability, being cloud service provider to the ultimate point of being an ICT service provider. So that is really needed. Couple that with experience, couple that with a strong network and fiber to the site and a strong network attribute. I think there will be huge success.
Thank you. I will go now to answer to a question from Jeff Seal, your neighbor in Austin, Texas, Dr. Muhammad. Okay, massive IoT connectivity on this vehicle is one of the many applications that will use 5G for the enterprise and government client base. How are you balancing the potential profitability for massive IoT with support cost edge capability? Who will take the answer to Jeff, please?
I can take a crack on it. I mean, massive IoT is a great part of the 5G. And imagine every single sensor that's attached to any physical thing in the network, going all the way down from toys and toothbrush, all the way to industry robotics. That's a key. Narrowband IoT is a key there. It is already part of the 5G development. And we see that booming with the price also of the module getting in China. I think it's almost the same price as the GPRS module. So narrowband IoT module is booming, low power, wide area connectivity. So again, this is part of the diversification. I mean, we're not really looking at consumer space or connecting 5G to industries or homes. I mean, connectivity is really important. Add to it what is happening in the standard now. Last month, 3GPP identified 5G Advanced when they identify different use cases that will get us to the precision, meter level precision, or even beyond in what we're calling cloud, censoring or crowd censoring, I'm sorry. So we have a lot of advancement and we're just scratching the surface.
Thank you, Dr. Brahim.
Tony, if you allow me to add one point,
yes,
I mean, we love IoT. To be honest, we love. What's not to love about the IoT? I mean, the number of IoT connectivity will be much more than the number of human beings, and those are customers to us. Second, they have this fixed bill amount monthly basis, so we don't have to hustle about the billing and all those kinds of certificate and complaints about billing. Third, they consume very limited amount of my resource. Fourth, they are kind of silent customers, so they don't complain a lot, So it's very easy to please them. So that's why I think the amount of revenue coming from the IoT, and as Dr. Mohammed said, everything around us will be connected to the internet by IoT. So yes, we are pushing this initiative. We think that a big amount of telecom operator revenue will come from the IoT within 5 years.
Thank you. Any comment on this from Alex or James? Alex, please.
Well, I would reiterate what everybody said. I mean, we did a lot of work in the early days on mobile IoT to help give it a push, and Mohammed and Huawei were in there with us. But now it's got to the point and the price point when it really is taking off. Another evolution that's really helping is eSIM. You know, it's all very well having these tiny devices. If you have to physically stick a SIM in it, that's a bit of a barrier as well, particularly if it's being deployed in another country. So I think all the signs are there. They're right. Most of the so-called competitors have more or less disappeared. We're reaching the level of scale that we require. And yeah, of course you need a different business model. And as Mohammed said, look, the usage pattern is so different. You don't need to be thinking about metering bytes and whatever. You know, you have either a subscription model or it's paid for as part of an insurance or something like that. They're all going to be completely different.
Thank you, Alex. James, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think IoT clearly is a different model, and for all the points that have been raised, I think one of the aspects that shouldn't be lost though is how you manage the fleet, if we're going to call them a fleet of IoT SIMs out there, because there's a little bit of a potential problem where because of the size and the volume of them that are going out there, you end up with potentially millions of devices that you can't call somebody or notify them. So yeah, managing who has those devices and who their what account hierarchy they're structured under from a managing those customers is going to be something that needs to be watched and looked out for.
Thank you, James. We'll go to one question for Huawei for you, Dr. Mohammed. Can we deliver a little more deeper on why 5G gives a greenfield opportunity to operators? Can we answer this quick, please?
Sure. Yeah. Well, as I said earlier, greenfield, the meaning that there are wide service at a space that has not been touched until now. And guess what? There is no incumbents. So look at any single industry, at any single application, and look how can I use data and the great experience and to be other than carrier that are well positioned. So that is the meaning of greenfield opportunities.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hamad. One question from Nasim Haddaji. Will 5G replace fiber or depend more on fiber? I'll start by you, Alex. This is interesting, I guess.
Actually, I think that would be one that would be better answered by Mohammed, because I think some of his markets have the most cable in the world. Sorry, the other Mohammed, Etisalat. It's the kind of black and white question you can't answer. If we had Ibrahim on the line talking about getting fiber to every part of Canada, which is what, either the first or second largest country by area in the world, I mean, that's not viable. On the other hand, it is being used instead of fiber in lots of places. But to get the best out of 5G, you kind of need fiber connectivity. So it's a bit of it's not a binary question, right?
Okay. Muhammad Tisalat, just in order to confuse. I called him Dr. Muhammad. So do you want to comment also on this?
I am coming from a mobile background, so I wish if we can get rid of the fiber and replace it by mobile everywhere, definitely. But as Alex said, it's not that easy. Some of the services will require a huge amount of investment to ensure the same quality of service, especially about gamings and latency and the biggest widest. So yes, most of the service today can be provided over 5G instead of the fiber. And we have a couple of trials and live networks going on now toward this direction. However, to ensure the quality of service needed, the amount of investment might not today justify going toward this direction.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Uh,
keep in mind, Mohammed, just one comment, Tony, that fiber to the site is fundamentally important, and you cannot ignore that. I mean, in Europe, for example, there's 50% fiber to the site. In the Middle East, it's about 20%. So we need to work on that. But I agree, when it comes to certain services like fixed wireless access, actually wireless provides really great alternative to fiber.
Okay, thank you. Just we'll go to the question of polling now. Be no more question from the audience. Thank you for everyone. It was really. Have you been able to use or test a 5G network yet? We have 42% who said yes, 58 who say no. And second question for the polling is, with 5G, will operator be able to force OTT not to use their network as a dump pipe? 67% say no. So this is why, like, we cannot get rid of them. 33% say yes. Who will benefit from 5G? Telecom operator, consumer, B2B sector. 4% is 9% is telecom operator. 11%, 24% is consumer, and 67% they say that the B2B sector. So maybe, I don't know if you agree. I share with you.
So we shouldn't invest in 5G.
You should not invest.
That's a joke.
Okay, no, because I need your opinion.
Based on
Because but our participant was really different opinion, maybe from us or from you. So just I share this with you. Okay, so now I would like to thank you, all of you, okay, for your participation. Really, it was very insightful comments from everyone, and I hope to see you again. I hope to see you, in fact, also in MWC next month in Barcelona. So I like to see you. Everybody, I encourage everybody. I'm going from Dubai with 3 of my team. So you should be there also, okay?
I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. In fact, now I will push Ibrahim to join us also. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you,
very
Tony.
much.
Thank you,
Bye
guys.
bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Tony.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
brothers.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mohammed, James,
Bye.
everybody.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Dr. Muhammad, see you in Barcelona also.
Yes, of course. I'll
Very
be
good.
there.
Very good. Yeah, James also try to be there. Okay.
I'll see you there,
Thank
Tony.
you.
Okay. Very
Bye.
good. Thanks. Bye bye. Bye. Bye bye.